Alright guys, what's up? Welcome back to another security video. Today I wanted to sort of get more specific with some of the fields within security, because up until this point we've been talking about it in a very broad and general sense. So in this video I wanted to sort of shed some light on the area of IT security that I work in, which is called pen testing or penetration testing. Now, this role is, like I mentioned, on the offensive side, which basically what that means is basically you're simulating an adversary. So with the offensive roles, another one being red teaming, the pen testing, red teaming, those kind of roles, you're basically like simulating an attacker, and you're going after applications the same way like an actual attacker would. And so I guess the next question would be like, why would a company want to, hire on someone like this, right? Well, the main reason they'd want to do it is because by simulating an attacker, you're able to get insights onto how things might be vulnerable. So they want to be, it comes from the whole idea of taking a more proactive approach to security as opposed to a purely reactive strategy. Reactive would be like, say that they just had defensive blue team and stuff like that, and then they relied on I don't know, maybe exclusively on like HackerOne or some kind of bug bounty system, or actual, hopefully this isn't the case, or they relied on like actual like getting breached and then doing something about it. So instead, a lot of companies, almost all companies, if they don't have this in-house, they're going to outsource it as the offensive security side. So these are the people, like pen testers and stuff, that are actually actively trying to exploit the systems in order to find vulnerabilities. So that is like what a pen tester does. The difference between pen testing and red teaming, they're pretty similar roles, really. The only main difference is that the red teamer will do more like social engineering and stuff like that. So if you're not familiar, social engineering is like trying to pretty much use any means necessary to coerce the user into taking a certain action. The example that you guys are probably most familiar with are like scam emails and stuff like that, like click this link and then something bad happens, obviously. That's like probably the most common example of social engineering. Or like USB drops, like you put a malicious executable file onto a USB, and then you just drop it in a parking lot. Someone picks it up. You've probably seen it in the movies. Like if you've seen Mr. Robot, then you know what I'm talking about. But yeah, pen testing is basically all the offensive stuff, like minus that pretty much. So, and a lot of times with red team, you have to be stealthy. So the red team guys, like they go after applications, but the blue team, they don't know which one they're going to go after. So like, as you can imagine, so they have to be stealthy. So as you can imagine, this is like probably the most sought after role in security is a red team. But pen test is like pretty similar, but it's pretty cool. It's like with pen test, it's like normally they know that you're testing. They pretty much always know, like the infrastructure teams and the app teams, they always know that which apps that you're testing. So you don't really have to like try and be super stealthy or anything like that. But depending on the pen testing role, it might encompass more automated scans or more manual testing. Now, fortunately, the role I'm in is a lot more manual testing. So what that means is like actually getting to simulate an adversary as opposed to just point and click with a bunch of automated scan tools. So pretty fortunate for that. It's a lot more fun. I've had to do the scan tool stuff before. It's not as fun. So stuff like that, like say a pen testing role that you ran automated scans, you're looking at things like static scans. So what static code scans are is you're basically just taking the application static files. So like say it's an app written in C#. So you scan the actual source code of the C#, and then it'll come back with like, oh, here's where it's vulnerable. And then as the security the security tester, you have to validate whether it's a false positive or not. So you got to try to replicate the vulnerability, see if it's legitimate, stuff like that. There's also dynamic scans, which you're testing the app while it's dynamically running. So with that, it's like you still kind of point and click with a scanner, but it's scanning instead of the source code, it's scanning the active website, like as it's up and running. So, and that's like a similar situation where like it'll come back with the findings, the vulnerabilities, and then as a tester you go and try to reproduce them manually to validate if they are in fact legitimate or not. That's like another common thing that a pen tester would do. Fortunately, like I was saying, my role doesn't, we have different teams to do that. So the most fun role in my opinion is doing the manual security testing, which that would be using stuff like Kali Linux, pretty much like that whole suite of tools, Burp Suite, stuff like that, and just going at the app in the same way an attacker would, except you can be loud. You don't have to be stealthy or anything like that, because the app teams, like I said, they're aware that you're testing. So that's a pretty fun role in my opinion. I really like it. I mean, that's why I've pretty much stuck to this role for the last like 6 years. Even when I hopped jobs, I made sure that I had a pen test role before I was willing to go over to another company. But yeah, in some of the other videos, I'll be going over some various other roles in security you can go for, because I think like one thing that I would have liked to have when I was starting out in security, or even before I even started out in security, is I wish I knew more about what opportunities were available, because if you walk in and tell a recruiter you want to be in security, they'll laugh you out of the room. And it's like, okay, that's so broad. That's like saying I want to be a programmer, or I want to be a doctor. It's like, okay, cool, but like what is going to be your specialty, So there's so many different areas of security. This is the one I'm most familiar with. Just thought I'd give you guys an overview. We can go in depth and more granular as we go with these videos if there's an interest. But yeah, that's a high level overview of what penetration testing is, and kind of overview of the offensive roles as well. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys in the next one.